welcome everyone. I think there are a lot of people coming in as well. And welcome to, as mentioned kanina ni Selena, I'd also like to thank Inquirer. They've been inviting me to give talks to young students or graduating students, those who are also, fresh graduates and are looking into coming into the workforce. And it's been, I think this is now my third time giving talks about how you can eventually, probably increase your chances of landing that job that you want. No? So today, before I probably share with you yung topic natin, and I'm very much excited kasi this is highly relevant sa nangyayari sa atin ngayon. And this is something that's also close to my heart. No? But before siguro I again start that one, I'll just share my screen here. And okay, hold on. All right, so I'll just share my screen and I hope you can see it as well. Now, as mentioned by Selena, my name is Jeff. You can, my full name is Jeffrey, of course. You can call me Jeff. You can also follow me and see most of my work, some of the things that I post online, my articles and so on and so forth. LinkedIn, I have a LinkedIn account. And by the way, I don't know, I saw some of the things na meron sa Prospel. I hope I can also get into that. Selena, probably after this one, where I'm very much interested to connect you with our HR manager. And as mentioned, if you want to know more about who I am on a professional side and in background ko, you can follow me in LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn account, and you can just click the follow or click connect, and you can probably send me a message on that one. On the personal side naman, para naman kilala naman natin isa't isa. So I'm a father to 2 kids and a husband to 1 wife. So kadalasan inaano ko yan, I make sure that I don't miss, kumbaga mapapag-jumble yung dalawang yon. So I'm a father to 2 kids and a husband to 1 wife. My wife is a professional makeup artist, and she's also a full-time homemaker. So that's on the personal side. So apart from what I'm doing, kung ano yung mga ginagawa ko ngayon, I'm also a full-time family person. And lately, with all the things happening around, we spent so much time together. Now, before anything else, and for those who have just entered the room or the Zoom meeting, my suggestion is we're going to do this a bit fast. More than I would have wanted this to be to have for us to talk longer about this. But since it's going to be fast, my suggestion is to get a piece of paper, get a pen or a pencil, write down notes. Kasi dahil nga mabilis, eventually I'll share with you some of the principles very quickly, and then so that you can take down notes and remember them as well. Now, going back lang, and again, I think the topic is very relevant for what's happening to us today and even last year. So it's been about a year and a half in the pandemic, and a year and a half na ang nagiging way of interviews na ginagawa ng mga companies, because most of them are also working from home. Most of my clients as well, some of my clients pala have been operating since last year na work from home fully. So therefore, even yung mga interviews nagiging virtual. But you know what? Since I started working back in 2001, and I've worked with several organizations in the past, both multinational and local, hindi na bago yung virtual interviews. In fact, I can still remember when I was stationed in Thailand back in 2008, gumagamit na kami ng Skype. This is how we already, communicate, especially when we're discussing with our international counterparts, or whenever nandun ako sa Thailand and I had to discuss some things with my boss here in the Philippines. And ganun din, we were interviewing salespeople in Thailand while we are here in the Philippines. We used Skype. So hindi na bago sa akin yung virtual interviews. And so that's why when I heard about this, I mentioned, this is a topic I'd like to really share with you, because this is somewhat very close to my heart. I've experienced this many times before the pandemic, and of course, even now, being VP and COO, I've also interviewed a lot through virtual platforms like ito nga, Zoom, even Microsoft Teams, WebEx, name it. You know, we even have yung iba pa natin like Messenger and so on so forth. Name it. Probably nagamit ko na yan in terms of interviews and in terms of interaction like what we're doing right now. Now, having said that, so again, sana meron na kayong papel at ballpen na nandyan. But before that, I'd like everyone to eventually sit down, relax. Let's watch this video clip for some additional, kumbaga, lessons.
We're hiring for Ocala. We have 2 locations in Ocala.
Where big fox. I'll vent to Ocala because I used to drive to Gainesville from Tampa and I would pass through Ocala and I would like Medi there.
And Big Dom brings that kind of entrepreneurial mindset to the table, you know what I'm saying, sweetheart?
Okay, yeah, don't call me sweetheart, and don't think that this is gonna work, because we want nurses to take care of patients.
I feel like the nurses should take care of me, sweetheart.
Okay, so I think we're done with this interview. You have a great rest of your day, okay?
Oh, I've been in the whip. What's good?
Not much. You're applying for the job, right?
Yeah, I'm done.
You're what?
I'm done.
You're done?
No, I'm done. Like I'm done for it. I'm about it. Like low key, like I want it. Like done.
You're down. You're down for it.
Done for it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Do you have a reliable transportation for on-the-job use?
Yeah, I got 4 cars. I own 4
Okay.
cars. 3 out of 4 of my cars, they're sports cars too. They're convertible. So, you know,
Okay.
I put the convertible top down. Oh, man. I turn heads when I drive, bro.
Okay.
Anyone there with you? Like,
In the whip?
yeah.
Right now, it's just me in the whip. Yeah, I'm sailing.
What's on the other side?
On there, yeah. Scarlet. Sure, yeah.
Let's see.
What's up?
Let's see. What was on the other side?
On that side?
Yeah.
So, car, yeah. I'm just in the whip, yeah. I'm giving you a tour, yeah.
You look comfortable.
Yeah, I'm mod.
So I know it's a bit funny, and I don't know about you, and probably parang sinasabi. Of course this is a sort of I think it's a prank. This guy has been doing a lot of virtual interviews recently and posting them online as a way of creating a comedy skit or a satire about virtual interviews. But you'd be surprised. I've told you kanina na, and for those who just got in, hi, hello, and welcome to our short webinar on about making it an awesome virtual interview experience. Now, this is a bit funny for you, but for me or for us as interviewers, it happens. It happens, and it just happened just recently. I have a story. One of my head of yung head ng supply chain namin was telling us this story. We're getting some people, or we're interviewing some people so that we can fill in a post in the north or in central Luzon, and we were supposed to and of course, since we can't travel there and do face to face, we did the virtual interview just recently, and apparently during the interview itself, nakita talaga nung head of supply chain namin, nakagigising lang nung interviewee niya, nagkukusot pa ng mata, galing sa kama, and so on and so forth. So these are things na minsan pag pinapanood natin online or sa TikTok, natatawa tayo. But they happen in reality. And that's what I want to eventually share with you in this very short talk that we're going to be having today. Another thing is that bakit awesome interview or virtual interview experience? I also was like you. I also took part in a lot of interviews, meaning to say I was interviewed by other companies, by managers, by HRs, by hirers, by recruiters, and so on and so forth. And it's usually not that awesome in terms of the experience kasi parang di ba nakakakaba. I'm sure some of you may mga stage fright, you can't parang you're so great at whenever kabisado nyo lahat ng mga gusto nyo sabihin, and then all of a sudden pagharap ninyo, it becomes, your mind goes blank all of a sudden. It happens. And that's the reason why I would like to share this with you, because look, interviews ought to be, or dapat siya talaga, awesome experience sa atin. Now, how can we do that virtually? Of course, there's a different how you're going to be doing it face-to-face eventually, but for now, if you would have virtual interviews, I would suggest and I would share with you these lessons today. Now, I don't know about you. Awesome for me also means epic. Epic. So yan yung tatandaan natin. Very short lang. Sabi ko sa inyo, mayroon kayong pen and paper for those who just came in. Get a pen and a paper, and I'll share with you 4 principles that you'll have to follow lang so that it would be an epic virtual experience. Okay, let's start off. E, equipment. Now, if you notice, probably right now, I'm not using my laptop camera. I'm using another camera. But of course, hindi ibig sabihin, gagawin nyo rin kayo. Siyempre, magastos din yan and so on. So, but always remember, whenever you're doing a virtual, invest somewhat. Ako, ang sarap na ngayon. Just recently, nagkaroon ng 10-10. I think magkakaroon ng 11-11. Ang mura na ngayon ng mga like this, no? Itong audio-visual. So that's number 1, your audio-visual. Or sorry, no, your audio pala. Sorry, audio-visual. Your audio. So make sure that you invest in your audio. When you say audio, headset, and also your mic set. Pwede naman ng isang set yan. Basta make sure you buy something that's not just, you don't rely lang on ano yung mic na nando sa desktop or di kaya doon sa cellphone ninyo. Better yet, if you go into, kung pwede na ngayon sa mga iCafes, kasi I don't know kung pwede na ulit ng pumunta sa mga iCafes, they have headsets, that's good. If you don't have, and you only have your smartphones, or at least your laptops or your desktop, make sure, invest on your audio. Kasi nandiyan magkakatalo talaga. And it's better that you can hear the person you're talking to, and also the person can hear you as well. And I mentioned kanina, yung visual. So make sure that first things first, kung kaya nyong naka-laptop, okay. Kung kaya nyo naka-desktop, sana may webcam. Pero kung smartphone yan, and you're using your smartphone, please, just like kanina, don't do yung naka-portrait siya. Always use the landscape kumbaga approach, and invest on a stand. A tripod, a small tripod, so that when you're talking to the person, steady siya, hindi mo hawak yung camera. Third, okay, make sure whenever you have an interview, secure yung internet connection nyo man lang. So check for speed. You can check it through yung speed test, di ba? May Ookla. Always check it beforehand. And if possible, a day before, hanap na kayo ng magandang spot. Hanap na kayo kung saan medyo mabilis ang konti. So don't settle for yung sobrang bagal. But again, these are preparation that you would have to do for yourself. So that's number 1, equipment. Number 2, presence. Now for presence, simple lang. Number 1, your attire. Nako, hindi ko even when you imagine, always you are meeting that person face to face. So whenever you're doing an interview, 2 things kasi what an attire does for you. Number 1, it of course present you well dun sa mag-interview sa inyo. And number 2, what I would say is that how you dress eventually also helps your confidence level. Okay? So like for example, whenever, and nasasanay na nga ngayon recently, di ba, half body lang yung sinusot, please don't. If you really value the interview during that time, huwag kayong manghinayang na you go full attire. Of course, kung hindi naman pwede magsapatos sa loob ng kung nasaan ka, then at least hanggang your pants, your blouse, your skirt, basta make sure that you are dressed properly. Number 2, posture. Sit up straight. don't slouch. These are common mistakes that we usually, kasi the way we carry ourselves will eventually also magmamanifest din yan sa the way we talk, the way we speak, ating facial expressions. So don't slouch. Sit up straight, especially if you're sitting or stand up straight, like what I'm doing right now. Doesn't matter, but make sure that you are doing the right posture. Number three, which is equally important as well, check your background. Mamaya, meron palang madan. So my suggestion is look for a spot where nobody would probably be walking behind you, or probably would eventually, di ba, may papasok bigla. So hindi ko rin ma-imagine itong how many times na nangyayari sa atin, nakakita tayo ng mga funny videos wherein virtual, and then all of a sudden may papasok na anak doon sa pinto and so on. So it happens. So one of the things that you have to do during virtual interview para hindi kayo nababother is that my suggestion is your background. So if you can, put yung back ninyo on a wall like what I'm doing right now, so that walang pupunta sa likuran nyo, or better yet, use a virtual background. So marami na tayong mga pwedeng gamitin ngayon. Ang ganda ngayon ng mga Zoom. Before, wala masyadong, unless you have a green screen, hindi ka makapag virtual background. Nowadays, ayan, blurred, it's a good background already, but as much as possible, use or get your back sa wall. So again, sa presence, simple lang, attire, your posture, and your background. Number three, letter I, interview process. Yung interview person natin. Now, kailangan natin to magpreparan. Whether virtual to or face-to-face, this is what I always teach and share with the interviewees or mga tinuturuan ko kung paano sila maging magaling sa pag-interview. Even myself, this is what I do. Number one, research about the company. I don't know why a lot of interviewees or those who are applying for a role, they don't even bother. Ngayon, sandali na lang ngayon. You have internet, you have Google, you can easily ask questions or easily research about the company, who it is, what its background is, ano yung purpose, mission, vision niya, kung meron man doon sa mga website nila, or probably look for common friends who are working there, who know someone's working there, ask about them, ask about the culture of the organization. Kasi don't come unprepared or without even doing your homework when you're in an interview, or when you will be going to an interview. Please don't. Make sure you know something or a lot of things about the company you're applying for or the job that you're applying for. And number two, review your resume. There are a lot of times that I would ask the candidate, an applicant, and I would ask them from their resume, and they don't even know, and they don't even remember. So sayang naman, you're the one who already submitted that resume, and you have to make sure that you also know what you've written there. Baka mamaya mas alam pa nung interviewer yung kung ano yung nakalagay sa resume mo at siya pa nagre-remind sa'yo. Don't. Review your resume. And number three, which is the most important part, relax. Especially nowadays, it's virtual. I'm not seeing anyone right now sa inyo. I'm just looking at the camera. So we can now imagine, kasi mas mahirap. I understand it's harder when you're seeing your interviewer face to face, but relax. It's not the end of the world. And by the way, this is not an interrogation. It's an interview. It's a two-way process. You're also, I'll let you in on a secret. As interviewers, we're also selling the role that we want to be filled in. It's not just you who's selling yourself, or meaning to say who's offering your talents. We're also selling what we have so that great talents will come to us and eventually take on the role. So it's a two-way process. So relax. If you've done your research, you've reviewed your resume, so relax and let it be a conversation. Okay. Now, fourth and last part, closing. Now, here's where a lot of us don't even bother. And it's so sad. Nandun ka na rin lang naman. Especially if you are talking to a very accomplished or highly accomplished person. Or kung sabihin na natin hindi man accomplished. You're already there. They're done asking you questions. My suggestion to you is this: prepare your own set of questions. Prepare some questions about what the company is all about, what are the current problems, being encountered by the organization, ano ba yung hinahanap nila sa isang candidate, how do they eventually help the candidates grow into or achieve their full potential, or probably ask what's the prevailing culture, ano yung leadership style ba ng magiging boss, and so on and so forth. So prepare certain questions for your interviewer. Kasi don't just let them ask you questions. I, as an interviewer myself, I look for candidates who are interested enough to ask questions. I would always, before I end your interview, I would always ask, what questions do you have for us or for me? And nakakalungkot, a lot of times, they don't even have questions. You know what I would tell the candidate whenever they don't have questions? They would tell me, sir, I don't have questions. I would always tell them 2 reasons why you wouldn't ask a question. And this applies to all of us actually. Write this down. 2 rason lang kung bakit hindi ka magtatanong sa iyong kinakausap or sa iyong interviewer. Write this down. Number 1, you know everything. You practically, you're all-knowing already. I don't know about you. I don't know everything. I know, in fact, I don't know a lot of things. So that's a number 1 thing. If you know everything, then you don't have to ask a question. So I'm sure all of us here, sasabihin nila, but Jeff, I don't know everything precisely. So it's not going to be reason number 1. Reason number 2 would be because I don't care enough to know what I don't know. Ulitin ko ulit. Number 2 reason that why you wouldn't ask the question is because you don't care enough to know what you don't know. Now, there are a lot of people who would tell me, Jeff, kasi naiya ako or natatakot ako, ganyan. Yes, precisely. All those feelings that you have, hindi mo siya hina-hurdle kasi you don't know everything. So therefore, you have to know the things that you don't know. But because you're afraid or you're nahihiya or you're embarrassed or you feel like, and so on and so forth, these are reasons that you let yourself to have para hindi ka matuto palalo. So therefore, you don't care enough to know what you don't know. What's the worst thing that could happen? You ask a question and they tell you, dami mo naman tanong, ayoko na maraming tanong. Then you already know, probably this company is not for you. So even that particular part gives you an opportunity to know the hirer or the company that you're applying for in the first place. So again, 2 reasons why you wouldn't prepare questions for your interviewers. It's because either you know everything or you don't even care about knowing what you don't know. Okay, so ask those questions and have that conversation. Don't just let it pass by without you having that conversation with the company or the person that you are applying to. Okay, Ben? And then of course, after asking those questions and after eventually having those conversations, never ever forget also to ask this simple question: what's the next step after this? Or what's going to happen after this interview? Clarify it. At least get to know what's the next step, who's going to call, and what's going to happen afterwards. Don't just let an interview pass by na, hala, pagkatapos hindi ko alam ano yun, tatambay na lang ako or antay na lang ako malalaglag yung bunga. Hindi. Ask the person, ma'am, sir, what would be our next step after this? Or what do I have? Who's the next interviewer? Ask the question of what's going to be the next step. Don't leave it hanging there. Kasi otherwise, hindi mo rin alam kung meron pa bang aasahan o hindi. Tama ba? And then after that, you thank the person, Same as when you are face to face, you stand up, thank the person, shake the hands firmly. Ngayon, fist bump na, di ba? Kasi dahil kung mag face to face man, we're still not allowed to eventually shake people's hands. So fist bump, say your thank yous, and then leave. So that's how you would do it. So again, how do you make it an epic interview or virtual interview experience? By the way, it's not just an interview. The interview experience itself. Make it an awesome, make it an epic interview experience. Don't just look at the output of it or yung resulta. I'll let you in on a secret. Despite the fact na sobrang galing mo or sobrang, you hit the interview really well, really great, doesn't assure you of the job. You know why? Because for us na nandun sa kabilang side, there are a lot of things that are happening on the background kadalasan. I even have this, this is my last story, and then we'll open up for some questions. So I even had this experience. A close friend of mine was interviewed, and eventually the person, the company that he was applying for, really told him, wow, and awesome, we want you on board, and so on. This is gonna, we want to hire you. We'll give you a job offer. You are the person that we really need for this role, and looking forward to working with you. And then crickets after 2 months, after a month or so. And of course, nagtaka yung friend ko, what happened? In fact, the sad part was, because he was already sure that he got the job, he resigned from his organization only to find out a month or two he didn't get the role anymore. Bakit? Kasi nga, there were a lot of things happening on the side of the company. They really liked him, don't get me wrong, and they really wanted to get him. Unfortunately, there are things happening on the background, or things happening in the company that eventually changed the whole story as well. So anong ibig ko sabihin dito? Don't ever think that just because you think yung interview nyo didn't go well, feeling mo na, patay na, ayoko na, ganyan. No. Most of the time, there are a lot of things happening in the background. It's not always you. Of course, it's also you in terms of how you carry yourself, and that's why we're doing this. So I'm sharing you an epic, how to make it an epic experience. If you follow the EPIC, or the EPIC principle, it's going to be an awesome, make it an awesome experience. Make it, an experience that you can be proud of, be happy about. Okay, so yan. So make it epic by making sure that you invest on the right equipment. Look at your audio equipment. Mura na lang ngayon yan. I understand some of us might not have the money for it, but don't, invest on it. I know you can invest on it. You can buy, magkano na lang, 200, 100, 300. You don't have to buy sobrang laki. Just make sure that your equipment works on the audio part. Visual part, make sure that landscape siya. If you're using a smartphone, wag yung portrait, yung standing. Make sure that it's a landscape, and if you can, again, invest on a tripod or at least a clip wherein naka-steady yung smartphones inyo, hindi nyo siya hinahawakan, so that you can openly talk without and then of course yung internet connection ninyo. P is your presence. Make sure that you dress up properly, your attire, posture. Make sure that you stand up straight or sit up straight, and then of course when yung background ninyo, best pa rin talaga, there's a wall behind you so that you don't have to worry about people walking behind you or anything happening at the background, or use a background, a virtual background, a wallpaper or virtual background picture, or blurred like what I'm using right now. Your eye means during the interview, make sure that you research about the company, you do your homework, you review your resume, and then last but not least, relax. And lastly, closing, make sure that you ask questions and thank your interviewer. Once again, I hope It's a rainy, where I am, umuulan na malakas. I don't know kung taga saan yung mga kasama natin dito ngayon, but I'm so happy and I hope you were able to capture the epic principle whenever you're doing your virtual interview. And let's open up for some Q&A. Thank you so much. Selena?
Thank you so much, Jeff. Yeah, I hope na, nagkaroon ng much better idea ang mga participants natin when it comes to virtual interviews. So I guess we can accommodate at least 3 or 2 questions from our participants, right?
Sure.
So, just we have to walk the talk kasi kailangan nga natin ngayon magtanong, right? Kakasabi mo lang closing, just for our participants, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in our chat box or in our Q&A para masagot ni Jeff ang mga questions natin.
Yeah,
Or
again,
if,
I have,
yeah.
Again,
Sorry.
2 reasons lang yan usually talaga, Selena. Pag hindi nagtatanong, either they know everything or we know everything, or we don't care enough to know what we don't know. Ay nako,
Yes.
napaka-importante sa akin sa interview. Pagka hindi nagtatanong, naku, may minus points na sa akin yan.
Yeah, or baka nahihiya, pwede rin namang mag-chat ng personally,
Oo.
right?
Right. You can chat. And again, kaya nga, kung nahihiya ka, you still don't care enough na i-overcome yung hiya mo para matuto tayo, mamalaman natin yung hindi natin alam. So,
yeah. Pero
ayan.
ako, Jeff,
So, are
actually,
there
I
any
have a
questions?
question for you.
Sure.
I mean, I know naman na you have also interviewed a lot of people, right? So, what was like, the best question ever asked to you? Not necessarily best question,
Ako
pero
yung tinanong, no?
yeah.
When I was being interviewed, you mean?
No, when you were the interviewer.
When I was the interviewer and they asked me a question.
Yeah,
Tama ba?
yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Well, marami. But one of the, oh, by the way, I have an article that you can read also in LinkedIn that they can, capture some of those questions. Depende kasi yan sa level ng kung sino yung nag-hire siya. But one of the things that I really like is whenever they ask me the question, how would I grow in this company, or what does a company do for talents like myself to achieve their full potential? Ang hirap ng bigat, but I really love that. That means the person has something in mind in terms of paano niya i-grow yung sarili niya. And that also, helps us or puts us also in a spot where we can share with them why it's great to eventually work for us. So yan yung isa sa mga questions sa talagang what do you do, or how do you eventually grow the talents who are staying in your organization, or who are being hired, or who's hired in your organization. So that's one. Another question that was I would say very relevant, tsaka I really like whenever someone asks me this, is that what would it take for me to eventually land the role? So, or what are you looking for, or what would it take for me to eventually get the role that I'm applying for? So these are some of the examples that are, parang galing nito ah. So kasi I mean, these are questions na I would say a person knows what he or she wants, or what he or she doesn't know, and so on. So I like whenever these questions are being thrown at us. It means they care enough.
Yeah.
And they really want to work for us. And they want to know whether this is also for them.
Yes, very interested talaga sa role, right? So yeah, we have actually 2 questions here. One, do you have some tips, like something we could put sa resume so I could likely land the job I'm applying for?
Right. So here's the thing. Before you even probably look at your resume, kasi wala ka naman malalagay doon, fresh grad pa lang kayo now, and ito pa yung masaklap. And I learned this also the hard way, by the way. Don't get me wrong. I also, kasi hindi ako mahilig sa extracurricular. I don't like, as long as I just finish my course at that time. Ang extracurricular ko hindi sa academy, meaning say hindi ako sumali ng mga orgs, and hindi ako nag-lead, unfortunately for me. Now, if you haven't done that, then wala ka talaga may lalagay apart from the diploma, you've studied on these things. Yun lang po pwede mong ilagay. I would suggest to put a cover page, or at least an authentic cover page, or at least an authentic statement of what your aspirations are. Kasi you are applying for a job. What is it that you would want? And please avoid yung copy-paste type of cover pages, or yung para bang yung objectives, or yung parang yung nilalagay doon na copy-paste from the internet. Speak from what you really want. If it's because you are a breadwinner, put it there. In fact, if you say, I have 3 sisters, I would want to put them into college. 3 brothers and sisters, 3 siblings, blah, blah. Put it there. I would like to land a job. Hey, those are authentic words, and that you would want to eventually, not just say, I would like to grow my blah, 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 and so on and so forth. Hindi na masyadong binabasa. Kasi nga, parang copy-paste na lang siya. So, suggestion ko would be, what is it really that you're looking for? And if you haven't done extracurricular sa mga sa schools niyo, wala, yun lang talaga yung malalagay mo, kung ano yung mga ginawa mo lang sa school, ano yung mga nag-graduate mo, ano yung mga courses mo, and so on and so forth. Don't worry too much about that. As mentioned, if you really like the company, okay, research about the organization, and know more about that organization. And again, if talagang gusto mo isang organization, isang company, hanapin mo paano sino yung dapat mo makausap, sino yung dapat mo mabigay yung resume, and so on and so forth. Okay, so yon. I hope that answers your question. So one is, you can't put too much if you're a fresh grad. So you don't have to. So I would suggest it more on the educational attainment. Put an intro why you're looking for a job in the first place. Be authentic. Yun, dun ka mag-concentrate. Ano talaga yung totoo, and then let them know.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Jeff. Yeah. And then another question that we have here: does every assessment or exam always have a feedback, like pass or fail?
Naku, unfortunately, no. That's a sad reality with recruitments nowadays. Not all recruiters would give you feedback. Now that's a reality that a lot of applicants also face, and unfortunately, sometimes you would apply for an organization, for a job, they won't get back to you, hindi ka nila babalikan. Kaya nga sabi ko nga doon sa EPIC, especially pag umabot ka na doon sa interview process, sa closing, very important you ask that questions, what's the next step on this one? Kasi a lot of them there are a number of companies who don't get back. And hindi rin naman din excuse, or hindi rin, but may reason din kasi kung bakit. So some companies process thousands upon thousands of applicants, per month. And it sometimes they have they lack the number of staff they have in their organization, na hindi na nila mabalikan yung mga lahat na nag-exam. So swerte ngayon kasi there are automations happening nowadays. There are softwares that are, that companies are subscribing to or buying, so that auto reply sila sa mga taong nag-apply sa kanila. But unfortunately, hindi lahat ng assessment or exam nagkakaroon kayo ng pass or fail feedback. So that's it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, well, sad reality talaga pala siya. And then lastly, I think this is also, related to the second question. What's your opinion on employers requiring professional experience from fresh graduates? Yung makikita mo yung job post, okay, fresh graduate, pero experience is,
Yeah. Simple lang. You're fortunate enough to know the company and not apply for them. Here's my take also with applicants. That's why it should be a two-way. And my challenge to all of those who are here right now, I hope you give me some time. I'll just unpack this a little bit lang. Beggars cannot be choosers, unfortunately. Meaning to say, if you don't prepare yourself for the job that you want to have eventually, and you didn't do your homework, unfortunately, any company or any offer you would take. And ang problema, may mga ganito talagang kumpanya na sinasabi nyo nga, can you imagine, fresh grad, tas hanapan ka ng professional experience, parang mind blown, di ba? But there are companies like that. That's why if you do your homework, you do your part, you don't have to work for these types of organizations. You can look for a job that has sense in them. Can you imagine, hindi pa nga kayo nagtatrabaho at pinapasweldoan sa kanila, ganito na sila mag-isip. How much more if you eventually land a job in that organization? How much more would there be illogical, systems or processes or things na papagawa sa inyo pag nandun? And kaya nga, unfortunately, kaya marami sa atin, di ba, parang nahihirapan doon sa mga trabaho or sa mga kumpanya or sa bosses na pinagtatrabaho nila. The good news is that unlike 30 years ago, I started working back in the early 2000, 2001. Back then, although dumadami na yung mga kumpanya, pero konti pa rin kasi yung opportunities. So we didn't have much choice. And we were looking for either multinationals or ngayon ang dami na. Meron ka ng hindi lang ngayon multinational, hindi lang local companies, hindi lang meron na tayong mga startup. In fact, meron pa freelance community and so on. I understand nasa pandemya tayo, but it also allowed us to eventually work remotely. I know of people who are landing roles and jobs na nandun sa Australia yung employer nila, and yet they are here in the Philippines. So I'm just saying, you have more choices nowadays, and all you have to do then is to do your part, do your homework, work on yourself so that you land the job that you would want to. Hindi ka magiging beggar. You cannot choose the companies that you want to work for. So yun yan. So yes, yun lang. My opinion to that is that it's funny, but it's a reality, and it only goes to show what the company is before kapag magtrabaho sa at least na-expose na nila yung sarili nila. My advice to you is look for better employers eventually, but you cannot do that if you don't work on yourself first. If you want to know more about how to do that, you go and follow me on LinkedIn. I have an article there called 31 Career Tips. You can read there. These are bite-sized portions that can help you grow your career while you're waiting for a job or while you're already in a job eventually. Okay? Ayan. Selena, may isa pa. Do you want
Ayan,
us to take
sige.
this one?
Yeah, so sige, last question. Should I put fresh graduate in my resume? Because in my TOR, it says 2020, but recently graduated this year because of the class extension due to COVID-19. I mean, may bearing ba siya?
I don't know. Wala namang required na nakalagay dapat fresh grad dun sa resume. Just put their educational background. You graduated at this one. Pag tinanong ka, bakit hindi? Just tell the interviewer this is what happened. Honesty is still the best policy, guys. I would friends. Honesty is still the best policy in my case. If a hirer or an interviewer doesn't appreciate you being honest, then it's not your loss if they don't hire you. Okay? So you don't have to put there yung fresh grad kasi hindi naman kailangan, wala namang requirement na dapat ilagay kung fresh grad ka or old or ano ka na ba? Spoiled grad. Kasi pag hindi ka na fresh, di ba? Paano kaya yung mga matagal nang gumraduate, ano ilalagay nila, di ba? So, wala naman, it's not a rule that you have to put fresh grad in your resume. Just put there kung ano yung totoo. Kung kailan, usually kasi it's educational background. Ilalagay mo lang naman doon kung what year you graduated, what school, and what course. So, just put there those things. Okay?
Yeah. All right. So thank you so much, Jeff. I've learned a lot from you today, and I hope our participants also did learn something from you, mga takeaways nila. And I hope matago nila yung piece of paper na inano mo kanina.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much again, Jeff, and of course to Philippine Daily Inquirer.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Inquirer, for inviting me over. See you. Bye-bye.